Hey, how's it going everybody? It's Tanner here and welcome back to a new Ninjago ranking video here on the channel. In today's video, we are ranking these seasons for the Season 12 Prime Empire update. Now, of course, I have done videos like this before, and every so often I will go through and sort of update my list because, of course, my opinions do change over time, and because new seasons are coming out for Ninjago pretty much every year now, it is my duty to go ahead and update this list with the new seasons. So, since Prime Empire has been out for a few weeks now and it's been over now for a few weeks, I figured I should stop pushing this video off and I should finally do it. So here it is, my updated ranking of these seasons video. Of course, a few ground rules though before we get started. Obviously, we will be ranking all of these seasons of Ninjago from worst to best, and we will be including some things on here that aren't technically seasons, such as, of course, Day of the Departed and the pilot episodes for Ninjago. So hopefully a lot of you guys don't get angry at me for that. I just kind of wanted to include everything from the Ninjago TV show, excluding, of course, the Ninjago movie. Oh, and also for a little bit of context, Season 11 will be split up in between the Fire Chapter and the Ice Chapter, just because they are two separate stories, even though they are the same season, but one is very much better than the other one. So hopefully, again, people don't get too mad at me, but it is my list and it's just basically my opinion. So let's go ahead and jump right into it here. This is my updated list of all of the Ninjago seasons ranked worst to best. So starting things off at the bottom of the list, we have Day of the Departed. Still not a very good, I guess, TV special in my opinion. Day of the Departed definitely has some issues, and I've talked about this TV special several times on this channel before and just how much I just do not like it. And I'm sure if you guys have been watching me for a very long time, you would know that this being at the bottom of the list is still not a surprise. I still do not like it. I like the concept for Day of the Departed though, but I feel like it would work a lot better as an actual season. But as it is right now, it's really just not that great. I love how Cole actually has some focus, but again, it's just not all that great, and that's pretty much all I have to say about Day of the Departed. So moving right along to the next one. Next up here we have the Fire Chapter. Now the Fire Chapter is one of the most recent Ninjago entries. More specifically, it is the first half of Season 11, and a lot of people do not like it, and I myself find it to be very, very weak. There are definitely some things that I enjoyed though from the Fire Chapter, but overall this story as a whole just kind of felt messy and just sort of, I guess, really, down on filler, and that is a big problem with the Ice Chapter as well, and it's just an issue with Season 11 as a whole. The actual filler going on here is kind of ridiculous, and the actual storylines that we do have are kind of messy, but the Fire Chapter definitely is not downright terrible. There's some stuff that I enjoyed from it. It's just not one of my favorite things in Ninjago. Next up, we have the pilot episodes of Ninjago. Now, these things are iconic, and they are definitely not terrible. However, they are definitely very basic when you compare them to the rest of Ninjago, which I suppose they probably should be pretty basic, because again, they were just the first entries in the Ninjago series, and they weren't really, I guess, made with the intent of Ninjago being a full-on series yet. So they are going to be kind of dumbed down and not really as complex as future Ninjago stories, but they still aren't bad. The pilot episodes are still very nostalgic to me and a lot of other big Ninjago fans, so they're definitely not terrible, but they're definitely, again, not my favorite thing about Ninjago. Next up, we have Season 1 of Ninjago, otherwise known as Rise of the Snakes, and this season is also very basic, much like the pilot episodes are, but they definitely still are not bad. This season definitely goes ahead and builds upon what the pilot episodes established for Ninjago, while also introducing new concepts and new characters and the new, I guess, major villains for this wave, that being the Serpentine. This is their first big introduction, so obviously Season 1 had to be pretty good, and for the most part it is really good. There's a lot of stuff that I enjoy about Season 1, and there's not a whole lot else that I can say that's really bad. It's just kind of basic again, but it's still not terrible, and I actually really do like this season quite a bit. Next up, we have the Ice Chapter. Now, the Ice Chapter is very much so the better version of the Fire Chapter. It is definitely the better half of Season 11, but it also doesn't really do a whole lot more than what the first half did. It definitely kind of, I guess, stopped all of the filler episodes. There were only a few in the Ice Chapter, but I feel like that's also one of its greatest weaknesses, because the ending felt kind of rushed, but at the same time, the Ice Chapter concept and the actual execution of the Ice Chapter, in my opinion, was a lot better than what the Fire Chapter had to offer, and this is definitely the stronger half of Season 11 again. But much like Season 1, a lot of it did feel pretty basic, but a lot of it was, I guess, capitalizing on older Ninjago tropes that we know and love, but it's definitely much better than what the Fire Chapter was. Next up, we have Season 7 of Ninjago, otherwise known as Hands of Time. Now, Hands of Time for a lot of Ninjago fans is kind of in a weird spot. A lot of people really like the concept of this season, but a lot of people really don't care for the actual writing and the way that characters are sort of introduced or reintroduced or written, and I personally do agree with that. I do kind of feel like the writing in this season was a little bit, I guess, lacking, and it definitely left a lot to be desired, but there is a simple explanation for that. It's just because, of course, the Hagman brothers weren't really around to write Season 7. This is when they were kind of taking a break from Ninjago. They would come back for Season 8, but Season 7 definitely does suffer from a few interesting writing choices that really don't line up. Also, the animation is kind of spotty for the most part, but of course that would be improved with future seasons. So just overall, Hands of Time is kind of in a weird transitional point, but there is still a lot to enjoy. Acronix and Crux are by far one of the better Ninjago villains that we've seen, and again, a lot of the concepts introduced in Hands of Time are very, very well done, such as the reveal of Kai and Nia's parents still being alive, so there is a lot of stuff to enjoy, and it's definitely not a huge loss for Ninjago. Next up, we have Season 2 of Ninjago, otherwise known as Legacy of the Green Ninja. Now, this season is very nostalgic for me for many, many reasons, and it also includes one of my favorite moments throughout all of Ninjago, that being the final battle. However, the only thing holding this season back from being one of my favorites is the entire first half of the season, which doesn't feel like it needed to exist at all. There are a few points in the first half of the season where I felt like, I guess, a little bit more of an explanation was necessary, and there were some points that I do think were very, very good for Ninjago and should have been included, but there's also a lot of stuff that I really don't care for, and this definitely holds back the season from being any higher on my list. The second half of Season 2, on the other hand, as soon as the ninja go to the Dark Island, it definitely picks up, and the final battle is still one of my favorite things about Ninjago to this day, so there's definitely a lot of good things to enjoy here, but there are a few things that hold this season back from, again, being one of my favorites. Next up, we have Season 10, otherwise known as March of the Oni. Now, a lot of people might be surprised that this is kind of higher on my list, or at least it's kind of above everything else that I just listed, and that's just because I feel like March of the Oni is very, very underrated. I feel like a lot of people don't really care for March of the Oni too much, but I personally do. I feel like a lot of people just kind of, I guess, weren't really happy with this conclusion to the Oni and Dragon trilogy, but in a way, I think it's not that bad. If you treat the season as an actual movie, I feel like it works a lot better than, for example, if you treated it like a 4-episode season, which I guess it kind of is, but at the same time, it's kind of like the Ninjago movie that the TV show fans deserve. And that quote has been used before by people like Tommy Andreasen to describe this season, but I think he's absolutely right in saying that, because the season wasn't all that bad. The actual March of the Oni storyline has some good stuff in it, and it also has some, of course, not so good stuff. I don't really care for everything in this season / movie, but it definitely wasn't as bad as a lot of people think, and I myself personally found myself enjoying a lot of it. So it's definitely not as bad as people say, and in my opinion, it's probably one of the most underrated things in Ninjago. Next up, we have Season 9, otherwise known as Hunted. Now, Season 9 definitely has some good stuff going on as well. I love the idea of the ninja being abandoned in some type of mystical, older realm, so that's a really cool storyline that they brought in there. Of course, Master Wu kind of gets a little bit of development as well, so that's awesome to see. And of course, Lloyd and Garmadon have some, I guess, inner turmoil going on with one another, so that's always cool to see. And Season 9 picks up where Season 8 left off, and in my opinion, that is probably one of the cleanest transitions between seasons that we've ever seen for Ninjago. It absolutely feels like the second entry in some type of trilogy, which in a way is what it's supposed to be, but all the unique stuff going on in Season 9 absolutely makes it one of the better seasons to watch. The writing is terrific, and just overall, Hunted is pretty solid, all things considered. There's not a whole lot of stuff that I dislike about Ninjago Hunted, and there's a lot that I enjoy. However, there are other seasons that I enjoy more, and that's kind of why Hunted is in this position on the list, and why it's not higher. Next up, we have the most recent entry in Ninjago's run as of the time of recording this video, that being Season 12, otherwise known as Prime Empire. I was very, very surprised with how good Prime Empire was as I started watching each episode. I was very impressed with the actual, I guess, transition from Season 11 to Season 12, because I kind of was expecting that same type of tone and feel that Season 11 introduced, but Prime Empire absolutely delivers. There's a lot of stuff about Prime Empire that I really enjoy. The actual world is beautiful to look at. All of these stuff is very unique to this season, and that's really awesome to see. There is some stuff that kind of reminds me of Season 3 a little bit, but it's absolutely not a copy, and the actual villain Unagami is by far one of the better villains that we've seen in recent Ninjago. So Prime Empire is very solid. Watching each episode all the way through, I was impressed with how the episodes just kept on getting better and better, and overall it was definitely a fun time to watch, and it's really cool to actually have a recent Ninjago season be as good as Prime Empire is. I don't feel like it should have been as good as it is, but I for sure feel like having a very solid Ninjago season at this point in Ninjago's life cycle is a very good win win on our part. So Prime Empire was a big improvement over Season 11, and it is a job well done by the Ninjago team. Next up on the list, we have Season 6 of Ninjago, otherwise known as Skybound. Now, Skybound is very similar to Prime Empire in a lot of ways. For example, Jay is the main character, and Jay as a main character actually isn't that bad, and Skybound was kind of the first time that we actually saw Jay take on this sort of center role, and in my opinion, it definitely works for him. And Nadakon is a great villain, and the overall story of Season 6 kind of does take a lot of influence from Season 5's story, but it makes it its own, and Season 6 is still very solid as a whole. The only thing about Skybound that I kind of have to complain about is the fact that the ninja team kind of gets whittled down, but I understand why they did that. It's to go ahead and actually promote Jay and Nia's story, which as a big-time shipper of the Jay and Nia ship, I could definitely say that this season is pretty much the best season if you want to get Jay and Nia content. You just got to go watch Season 6, and it's absolutely a blast. There's a lot of good stuff going on throughout their relationship, and a lot of that is highlighted throughout this season. So that's just enough of a reason to go ahead and watch it there. But overall, Skybound is very solid. Definitely one of the better Ninjago seasons out there. Next up, we have Season 3 of Ninjago, otherwise known as Rebooted. Rebooted is very, very short, only 8 episodes under its belt, but in my opinion, it really doesn't need to be all that long, especially considering the story of how this season came to be, and where it picks up and where it leaves the ninja after the events of Season 2, and of course, where it leaves the ninja going into Season 4. So Zane is going to be the main focus of this season, and excellent choice promoting Zane as the primary ninja, because his story is very unique when you compare it to all of the other ninja, so why not have him highlighted in an actual season of his own? That was just a brilliant idea in general, and the Overlord being back is a very good thing, and just overall, Rebooted has a lot of good stuff to offer for Ninjago. It's definitely one of the better seasons out there, and just overall, for such a short season, it for sure leaves a big impact, and in my opinion, again, it's one of the better Ninjago seasons out there, with great writing, excellent characters, and an excellent conclusion to go ahead and add on top of that. And now we get into the top 3. In third place, we have Season 5 of Ninjago, otherwise known as Possession. Now, I've said this before, but I'll say it again, but Possession is probably one of the most cinematic Ninjago seasons of all time. The scale of this season is absolutely huge. The ninja basically have to fight an entire realm in the conclusion. The suits are awesome, Moro is a great villain, and overall the season does a lot for world building, and it does a lot to set up future Ninjago seasons, while at the same time it doesn't feel like it's wasting its own time and wasting its own storyline. So Season 5 is absolutely a great ride from start to finish, and it does highlight characters, again, like Lloyd and Nia, who finally became a ninja this season, and just overall, it's very solid. And it also is a fan favorite season. I know a lot of people love Season 5, and I myself am no exception to that. I think Season 5 is very well done, and I feel like 2015 in general was one of the best years for Ninjago, but we'll get into why that is later on. And just overall, I believe that Possession deserves the number 3 spot on this list. Next up in the list in second place, we have Season 8 of Ninjago, otherwise known as Sons of Garmadon. Now, this might be a little high on my list when you compare it to lists of other Ninjago fans, but I don't really think that this season is all that bad. When the season first was announced, I know a lot of people absolutely lost their minds because of how the ninja were switching their designs to fit the Ninjago movie style, and a lot of people just did not like that, and a lot of people still do not like that. But when you take that aspect away from it, because that never really bothered me in the first place, the actual writing and the actual characters are very well done in this season. Of course, Dan and Kevin Hageman returned to write this season, and this is probably one of the best written Ninjago seasons of all time. The actual confrontation between Lloyd and Garmadon towards the end of the season is insanely awesome. I love how it ends off on a cliffhanger, and just overall, the ninja's powers are pretty consistent all throughout this season. There's some excellent choreography with the fights, and it's also one of the darkest Ninjago seasons ever in terms of content, so it's definitely mature, and it's definitely one of my favorites, so I do believe it deserves a spot high up on this list, and that's why I gave it the second place position. And lastly, in first place, we have Season 4 of Ninjago, otherwise known as the Tournament of Elements. Now, if you guys have been watching me for a very long time, you would know that this has always been my favorite season, and it pretty much will remain my favorite season, just because I feel like it's just that good. Again, talking about the writing, it's definitely very well done. The actual concept of the Elemental Masters being introduced also does a lot for world building, and just overall, Season 4 did most for the Ninjago lore than I feel like any other season did. It introduced a lot of new stuff, while also not feeling like it was introducing too much. Master Chen is one of my favorite villains. Klaus is an excellent villain. We got to see Garmadon redeem himself towards the end of the season finally, which was very awesome to see and very emotional. The conclusion was also very awesome and emotional, and just overall the entire season did a lot for Ninjago, and I feel like a lot of other seasons should try to be more like season 4. I definitely feel like season 4 is a very good example of what a good Ninjago season should be like, and I know a lot of other people feel the same way. I haven't really come across anybody that absolutely hates the Tournament of Elements. Something about this season must have been very, very well done. In my opinion, it's one of the strongest Ninjago seasons out there, and it's for sure my favorite season, and the only way it won't be my favorite season anymore is if a future Ninjago season kind of tops it, but at this point, I really don't feel like there's much that you can do to go ahead and top the Tournament of Elements. So thank you so much for watching this video. This was kind of a big one to make, and I hope you did enjoy watching this video. Of course, though, now it's your turn. Feel free to list in the comments what you think about my list and what exactly is your favorite Ninjago season, and feel free to rank all of the seasons like I did in this video. And thank you so much for watching again. If you would go ahead and give this video a like rating, that would very much mean the world to me. I don't usually ask for likes this way, but this video did take a long time to make. So if you could go ahead and show your support with a like and maybe a subscribe, that'd be awesome. And we are very close to 70,000 subscribers at the moment, so thank you all so much for that, and I hope you enjoyed the video yet again. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and check out the links down below in the description for my other forms of social media. As always, big shout out goes out to my Patreon supporters, including once again the marvelous Jan. Thank you guys so much for watching this video once again. My name is TannerFishies, and with that I bid you farewell.